Good morning, sports fans from all around the world, from Cape Cod to Cancun, from Vegas to the Vatican. ECSI and your breakfast bankroll has you covered from one spectrum to the other. I'm your host, Jeff Dawson, CEO, founder of ECSI, East Coast Sports Investors. You can find us on the web at all social platforms. Any questions, always feel free to give us a holler. And my co host from Tampa himself, former MLB Major League ball player, catcher, claim to fame, he threw out Ken Griffey Jr. The one, the only, the man with a myth, our main man, Scott D. Webb. What's up, my brother?
Hey, good morning, Jeff. How are you today? And boy, back in the day, I could play baseball, but not anymore.
It's a young man's game, my brother. Young man's game. Um, we've been talking and talking and talking, and since June 6th, we talk about Spider Tech. We made it a month, 5 weeks. Some pitchers survive, some pitchers are reborn, some pitchers are lost. If you watched baseball yesterday and last night, I think you would have just absolutely shook your head at some of the stuff that went on. I'm talking like epic stuff. I mean, you're talking the Nats with 18, Mets Cincinnati 15-11. The Red Sox, who we talked about and you talked about, put up an 8 spot in the first inning. First time in their history to hit 3 homers on the road in the first inning. We'll get to that. Detroit puts up 14. Some teams are getting it, some teams aren't. What were your thoughts about last night?
I don't know. Baseball teams are getting ready for football, maybe. No, I think I don't know. Baseball is weird. It's thousands of games that are played in a season, and the reality is that sometimes on a given night you got this weird stuff that happens. Looking at my board numbers yesterday, I knew it was going to be a bad pitching night. But I didn't know, you can never predict it's going to be that bad of a pitching night. I think that this is a pitching dominated league. So when the bad pitchers don't pitch, they get crushed. Mm-hmm. And there's not very many bad pitchers. So last night was kind of a fluky thing. Today's kind of a weird board too, because you got you got a lot of guys coming back, like John Means pitches today. Stock is pitching again today for the Mets, and he hasn't pitched that much. Hatch is pitching today for Toronto, and this is his first start this year. But he's pitched a couple of years ago for Toronto. So you've got a lot of weird stuff. It's a matter of these guys trying to shorten innings. I was listening to somebody, I don't remember who it was, or maybe I read it somewhere, that they're just limiting these guys to 4 and 5 innings, a lot of them, just to try to get through the season so they don't get hurt, number one. And number two, that covers their bases. It's not easy to cover the number of innings they got to cover in a Major League Baseball season. In today's world, there's 15 to 20 guys that are going to start games for these teams this season. And it's kind of, I don't want to call it unique because it's just not. But it's interesting to see how teams try to do that. The Rays for years with the opener strategy, and that's kind of caught on with some of these teams. And I think some of these teams try to do an opener and they don't understand what an opener is and how it's supposed to get the guy through the first 7 batters. So the starter comes in and he faces the 7, 8, 9, and 1 guy. And if he can get through that, then you're 4 innings into the game. So it's kind of like that's a setup guy at the beginning. And if you can get your starter off and get him off to a good start after the bats against the 7, 8, 9, 1 guy, then you might be on for a good 4 or 5 innings, and then you're in the back end of the game, and all of a sudden you've completed the innings. So I don't know that correlates yesterday to what we're going to see today. Although looking at what I look at, there's a lot of swing and miss today. There's some good pitchers out there that people might not have heard of. McClanahan, for example, for Tampa Bay. Some of these guys, Dunning for Texas, Skubal for Detroit. These are all young kids, but they all have swing and miss stuff, and it shows up in their reports and their numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny how yesterday, some games literally were ended, meaning, the wait and see effect. I enjoy baseball because you just never know. You really don't. And but when a team puts up an 8 spot in the first, or you knew right away that Texas and Gibson didn't have it, and that's baseball. Soto ends up hitting 4 homers, and let me tell you, we've won a lot of money this year investing against Leicester, and then Leicester looked like the old Leicester, and so, as you said, different day every day, and that's what makes baseball so exciting. And again, hats off to the Giants. They go into LA, they set the tone. Okay, the worst case scenario is the Dodgers take the next 3. They take 2 games. The Giants have 2 games in hand already, so they're not going to get swept. The Dodgers aren't going to pick up 4 games, and so leaving LA, you're okay.
Yeah, I mean that was a big win because Gossman showed what he can do yesterday, right? I mean, I think the Dodgers only had 4 or 5 hits yesterday, and that's a team that offensively came in. I think I said yesterday they were like top 5 yesterday, something like that. So that doesn't mean that it's going to be the same case today, but at the same time as that's good news if you're a San Francisco Giants fan, because the resiliency of that team to stay with it and to stay on it has just been unbelievable, and in a lot of ways, and it's been unbelievable just because they're not supposed to be there. They don't have they don't have the team that the Dodgers do. They don't have the team that the Padres do, but yet they're right there beating all of them. So it's interesting to see, and questionable as the leadership on the field too, because Gabe Kapler, I don't think would be one of the guys you would line up to say, hey, let's put him in line with one of the best managers of baseball. So it's just interesting to see how teams do, and in baseball more than almost any sport, and because football you have 2 different sides, so you have an offensive side of the ball and a defensive side of the ball. And theoretically, when they practice and do all that stuff, they're all separated from each other. They don't practice with each other. Baseball is a lot different in a sense that I don't want to call it a camaraderie sport, but it's a sport in which if you get a group of guys that mesh really well and actually fundamentally play off of each other, you can see it. You don't have to have the best talented players. You just have the best team, and they play like it.
Last night, typical night overall. Favorites go 5-7, overs 7-5. Some of your big dogs that ended up cashing: Orioles plus 242, Twins plus 199, Giants plus 119, Red Sox plus 117. And of course, I've bashed the Twins all year. They come out as the favorite in the second with Berrios, again, a pitching matchup that they have the advantage, nowhere to be found. And then, of course, a big dog opening game, and it did go extra innings in that doubleheader, the first game, but they come rolling in at plus 199. That team can't get blown up quick enough in my eyes. But anyways, we're going to go right to the board today. We're going to give the people what they want, and we're going to talk some shop. As you said, interesting board. We had 2 that kind of got checked off early, and we'll ask for your thoughts. Let's get that up here for the people. First one I have checked off, Scotty. 7:05 start, rotation number 901, 902. Miami and Washington, Rogers versus Espino. A couple things in my head. Teams that put up, a couple touchdowns and a field goal in the opening game or any game have a hard time, obviously, to duplicate something like that. Second of all, Rogers has been very good for us. Espino, we haven't really dove into, but the eye opener for me, at least initially, was Pinnacle had an opening number of -125 with the Marlins favored there. Thoughts there?
Well, I have this as one of my only plays of the day.
Okay.
And I like Rogers a lot. And following what you just said, I kind of like the idea that the Washington Nationals have been on a run here with some big scores and some big run totals in the last few games. So they're offensively hot. As a matter of fact, they're number one in baseball. They took over the Padres yesterday. When you score that many runs, I guess you can, I guess it just is what it is, right? So, but I'm looking at this game in a little different format. I don't like the ability that the Miami Marlins score runs, and you'll attest to what I'm saying. I just have a hard time with them scoring runs. So I'm going to look at it like Espino, who's not a great pitcher. He really isn't. He's more of a 2 to 5 inning guy. He hasn't thrown 5 innings very often. His game scores a 48, so he's below average. And what I'm thinking is that Miami scores, say they score 4 or 5 runs, and I don't think Washington's going to be able to match the 4 or 5 runs. So I'm going to play the under because the under's a 9, and I kind of like the idea that Miami's not a big scoring team, and you got a good pitcher pitching today for Miami, and I kind of like the idea that the Nationals have gotten to him before. And I kind of like the idea that he's going to pitch pretty good today.
Okay. And the second game that kind of checked our box, 7:10 start, rotation number 919, 920, Texas at Detroit. And again, another team, Texas, put up a boatload last night. Good pitching matchup for people that like baseball with Dunning and Skubal. Texas opened up at -108 at Pinnacle, and overnight, and what we like to call the morning movers and shakers said not so fast and moved Detroit and Skubal as right now to a -118 favorite. We talked yesterday about Detroit. Come out of the All-Star break, and it looks like the Tigers of 84 and 85. And they're raking, sweep the Twins, and then, had a great day, opening day there. But again, for us initially, the fact that Texas, again, was opened up as a favorite, as they were yesterday with Gibson, and then they got shellacked. Thoughts about Dunning versus Skubal, Scott?
Yeah, this is a pretty good matchup because these are some young kids pitching, and Dunning was a White Sox pitcher. He got traded. He was part of the Lance Lynn deal, and he's done really well. But he's the guy that is the 4 to 5 inning pitcher. He's the one they're limiting innings on. They're letting him go out and start, but they're saying, hey, you can only go 4 or 5 innings, and they take him out. Doesn't matter whether he's doing good, bad, or indifferent. They just take him out. So the question then becomes is say this is a good pitching matchup after 5 innings, and then you throw in the Texas bullpen, and then you go, oh my God. So I mean, even Detroit at this point can be scary because they're on their big run, right? This is the time when they're hitting the ball and doing some things. So I can understand the money coming in on Skubal. The other thing that I wanted to look at, and I got it right here, Texas is number 27 in all of baseball against left-handed hitting. So I don't like the idea that they're going to have great success against Detroit, especially with Detroit on a run. That being said, Skubal, he's an average pitcher. He's a good young kid. They got swing and miss stuff, both of them. But what they got to learn to do is that they have to learn to not walk guys. Their control issue can be there. But the interesting thing is that Skubal batting average against for the last month is 218, and for Dunning it's 275. So that just allows Detroit, who's hitting, to be able to sort of capitalize, I guess, on the ability to put more balls in play, maybe get on base a little bit. But, I think with young guys, that WPA number really shows it, the winning percentage added. And for Dunning, it's only 0.21. And for Skubal, it's minus 0.16. So that just what that means is that in those clutch spots and in those spots where they got to get outs, these guys haven't learned really how to do it quite yet. And not that Dunning isn't better at it, because he's a little more seasoned and his number shows. But Skubal has to learn that. And if he can learn that, he'll be just as good as really what Mize has been doing. Because in my opinion, that's where Mize is doing well. His statistics don't look great, but where he's been doing good is those spots where you need to get an out to prevent a run, that he gets it. And what it looks like here is that Skubal, when he tries to get an out, he can't get it. He can't get off the diamond. So if I were going to do this game, Jeff, I think I would probably do, like Texas in the first 5 innings and then back off of it after that.
Okay, and lastly, always an eye-opener. Rotation number 925, 926, 705 start. Good pitching matchup, kind of sort of on one side of the diamond. Phillies at Yankees. Nola versus Herman. And a couple things that jumped out is, first of all, the Phillies opened up as a minus 119 favorite, and overnight and currently this morning getting pushed to a minus 126, even a minus 129 at Circa right now. Thoughts of Nola versus Herman?
Well, I think Nola's been one of the bigger disappointments to the season. Not that he's been a bad pitcher, but he's not been what everybody thought he was going to be. This was his year that he was supposed to step up and be one of the elite pitchers, the top tier type pitchers. And I think we've talked about that before. But he is right now in a pretty good stretch. His Sierra number is one of the lowest numbers I've seen for a while. It's 1.79. So he's been pitching really, really well. He's off of a average game score. But Herman, for the Yankees, they've backed way off of him. So what he's been doing lately is not starting games. He's been kind of coming in as the bulk guy after the opener. And then he's only throwing somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 3 or 4 innings, and then he's got to go. So if he's going to be an opener type today, then you're going to look at what they have, kind of that middle bullpen type scenario that they've got going on. And I don't think that's a good matchup really for the Yankees. I kind of like the Phillies in this game. I just don't want to play them, only because I don't trust Nola, and I don't trust that the Yankees might not be ready to go on a run here with that Red Sox kind of coming off of that. The only issue though is the Yankees only have 4 starters out there, but that doesn't matter the way they've been playing. The other guys can be better than what the starters are. So this is kind of a weird game. 43% strikeout rate for Nola. If you have strikeouts and you're playing against the Yankees, you're going to get lots more. So I kind of like the idea that the Yankees have a little less opportunity to hit. And see, German, he's only got 13% strikeout rate and 11% walk rate now. So he's got balls in play and he's putting guys on base, which is not a good indicator. And the Phillies have been making a run to try to catch the Mets. And my opinion would be is that if I'm going to bet it, I'm going to bet the Phillies.
All right. 1 second here, sir. With that said, we will go to what everyone's waiting for here, my brother. The stage is yours.
Yeah, the only game that I actually wagered on today, and sometimes it gets this way, is, and especially when you're starting to look at some of these things, I wanted to bet against John Means today, but then when the number came out, it was minus 200, and I about fell on my chair. So I didn't want to do that. because that's just way too high. And one of my favorite things to do is when a guy's been like John Means, not that he's not been a good pitcher, but when they've been on the DL for a while and then they come back off, their first start usually isn't the best. I mean, they're a rusty number one, and number two, they're afraid that they're going to break their leg or whatever happened to them before. So it's a good idea to bet against those guys. And that's really what I was going to do today, but it didn't work out because McClanahan's minus 200, and that's a big number. I thought maybe we'd catch a little bit of a break because John Means and his no-hitter and some of the other stuff that he's been doing all season. So what I ended up doing was doing the game that we had talked about a little bit before. I took the Miami Marlins game, and I played that game under 9 minus the 120. I like the idea that it's going to be really hard to score 10 runs in a game where you have one of the best pitchers in baseball, which is Rogers. His game score for the season is a 60, and 60 is what Aces put out there. I just hope that he goes deep enough in the game that we stay away from the Miami bullpen, and I hope the Miami bats don't wake up today. Espino, he's not that great. He's got a 5.78 Sierra number and a 5.36 number when it comes to his xFIP. He only strikes out 10% of the guys, so balls are going to get put in play. So as long as Miami kind of hits them to where the Washington defenders are, I think this game should go under the number relatively easy.
All right. So from Scotty Webb, rotation number 901, 902, Miami at Washington. Rogers versus Espino, under 9 minus 120. He locked it up. And from our ECSI desk today, we're going to throw you out a soft lob ourselves here. We're going to take a look at the Rangers in Detroit again. And we see that under over opened at 9 and dropped to 8.5 in 2 spots. We'll back off there. We're going to piggyback on the same game for you, Scotty. We're going to take Rogers first 5 against Washington here. You should be able to get around a minus 110. We don't have to worry about either bullpen here. He's been lights out. So we like that angle there. So Rogers first 5, right around minus 110 right now. Keep an eye on that. So tomorrow we'll be back. It looks like we're going to be back at our midday market report time at noon. Keep an eye on our timeline at EC Sports Invest on Twitter. We'll be peppering that all day with nuggets, line movements. And for myself and Scott, we wish you all a blessed day. Always wager with your head, not your heart. And if you have a problem, pick up the phone or reach out to someone. Best of luck and see you soon.